Welcome and happy 2024. I'm really excited. This is our first session of 2024. Thank you so much for joining us. So my name is Marjorie Bentley. I am the executive director of the Stars College Network and also a senior admissions counselor at the University of Chicago. So we're going to be talking a lot about these summer pre-college programs. Summer is one of the best times to really get that full experience of a college. You can go visit a college anytime. That is awesome. But summer, you can really spend some time. And most colleges and universities do offer some sort of summer program. We're going to talk about some specific ones tonight. And you can find them on the website. Like I said, it's in the event section of our website, but you will see listed all of the different summer programs that are available through there. And we want to highlight these specifically just because they are designed for rural and small town high school students just like you. And that is a really cool way to meet new people who might come from rural areas all across the United States. I know we have students every year coming from the rural Midwest, the South. I had a student who lived in a tiny island off the coast of Maine. I've had students coming from Alaska and Hawaii, all over the place. So you get to meet a lot of really cool people who have kind of a similar background to you. They live in that rural or small town area. Sometimes it's a little harder to get to. They have to use things like referential cities, like I'm from here, where is there? That is 3 hours from Chicago, right? So things like that. So it's a great way to meet other people, and these are great opportunities for you. I'm going to turn it over to my colleague Dakota to talk a little bit more about what a summer program actually consists of.
Yeah, so we know that some of you probably have done a summer program before or have heard of them, and others of you might be hearing about this term for the first time and aren't quite sure what a summer program is. To kind of set the stage for you, think of summer programs kind of like academic summer camps. There's a social piece where you're meeting other people and meeting new friends. There's an overnight piece where maybe you're living on campus, usually in on-campus housing. A meal plan's provided, usually staying away from your family on site at a college university. But the difference that makes them the academic piece is that a lot of times there's an academic component tied to them. So a lot of times you'll be doing a class for that week or those weeks. You might also be doing some workshops with admissions officers. And so it's kind of like an academic summer camp and a way for you to experience college life at a given institution. And not just at a certain place, but to learn about college life in general. Right. So you might learn about what it's like to be a student at WashU or at Yale, for instance, but you also just learn about what college is about in general. As I said, they include housing, a meal plan, classes, workshops. A lot of them include excursions. There are two photos here from WashU and U Chicago summer programs where students go out and experience a city, experience that city life, that town life, experience what students at that school do on a daily basis when they're out off campus exploring and living in their cities. And a lot of programs do offer travel stipends and that will either reimburse you or cover your travel to and from the institution, or a lot of them will also do scholarships that will waive full cost of the program, half cost, what have you. And so as Margie mentioned, there are three on here that we want to talk about tonight. There are three really overnight, at least week-long programs: the WashU Rural Scholars Academy, Yale Young Global Scholars, and then U Chicago's Emerging Rural Leaders 1 and 2 programs. But there are a lot more that maybe are smaller or just drive-in programs that aren't on this slide. John Palmer has a really great program down at Vanderbilt. And so just know that we're going to talk about 4 programs today, but there are a lot more that are either already in existence or are being created as we speak. If you aren't familiar, the Stars College Network is pretty new. We've been founded for less than a year, technically, maybe a full year officially. And so a lot of our institutions are building these programs for the first time. And so while there are 3 overnight week-long programs and a few small one-day drive-in programs, there'll be a lot more this time next year and even more in 2 years. And so if one of the schools that you're interested in the network doesn't have one right now, keep an eye out, keep watching, as I promise you, I'm sure they'll have one in the next couple of years.
All right, I'm going to turn it over to Samantha now to talk a little bit about Yale Young Global Scholars. Now, full disclosure, the deadline is fairly soon. So if this is something that you're interested in, go for it.
Thanks, Margie. Hello again, everyone. So this slide has a lot of information on here, but it's simply to show some basic information about Yale Young Global Scholars. Broadly speaking, YYGS is one of the most globally diverse 2-week academic summer programs in the world. So each session, one being June 23rd through July 5th, the second being July 7th through July 19th, and the third being July 21st through August 2nd, is comprised of 4 tracks, okay? So the first track is called Innovations in Science and Technology, or IST. If you can't tell, we like to use a lot of acronyms, which is designed for students who are interested in learning about diverse topics in the STEM fields and applying scientific principles to real-world applications. The second track is Literature, Philosophy, and Culture, or LPC, which is designed for students with an interest in the expression and interpretation of creativity and culturally significant texts. The third is Politics, Law, and Economics, or PLE, which is aimed at students with an interest in understanding diverse economic theories, the values and practices of government, and legal frameworks in historical and comparative perspectives. The last track is Solving Global Challenges, or SGC, which is focused on innovative and cross-disciplinary approaches to solving the greatest challenges facing the global community in the 21st century. So I know that sounds like a lot. All 4 of those tracks contain a highly collaborative curriculum. That curriculum includes breakout discussions that dig deeper into lecture content by sharing knowledge, posing questions, and brainstorming real-world implications with a small group of your peers. A capstone project where students brainstorm and explore a collaborative project under the mentorship of YYGS staff. Family time, which is a favorite among YYGS alumni that helps develop strong bonds from around the world through identity reflection, courageous conversations, active listening, and fun social activities. Lectures where students hear from accomplished Yale faculty and leading practitioners about the most important and relevant topics in their field. Seminars where students pursue their passion and find new ones through 100+ unique and exciting seminars offered each summer. And lastly, Symposium, which is an immersive hands-on activity to explore topics within your academic track. Like Margie said, unfortunately, the YYGS regular decision application deadline is tomorrow. With that said, I encourage freshmen or sophomores to consider YYGS for summer 2025. The comprehensive application requires an activities list, 1 400-word essay, and 1 200-word response, 2 fast-take responses, an official school transcript, 1 recommender who complete a YYGS recommendation form. It's not a full letter of recommendation, and a need-based financial aid application. So it's pretty lengthy. You might need more than 24 hours to complete it. But STAR scholarships are available for summer 2024 and 2025 and will be awarded to selected students who self-identify as living in and or attending school in rural and small town areas in the United States, as part of Yale's commitment to supporting these students on their path to and through college. So please know that there is no additional STAR scholarship application. You just have to complete the YYGS application to be considered. It's going to cover full tuition and travel costs for students to attend any of those 4 tracks or sessions. As a former college counselor myself, I recommended 1 or 2 students for YYGS every year and even had the opportunity to sit on very impressive lectures. Every student who attended gave rave reviews. Before I pass it off to Dakota from WashU, again, I want to leave you with a quote from a YYGS alumni who said, "I left New Haven with more questions than I imagined, even though I had hoped for otherwise. YYGS made me realize that there are no easy answers to the complex world we inhabit. That with the tools of knowledge and education, however, we have the power to discover solutions to the toughest questions of our time and explore the path forward, being unburdened by what has been." If you are someone who's interested in an open, exploratory, and collaborative approach to learning, then YYGS might be a good fit for you. You can find additional information about YYGS, including webinars, application instructions, a sample schedule with all those components, and alumni articles at globalscholars.yale.edu.
Thanks, Samantha. I'm now going to chat briefly about the WashU Rural Scholars Academy. So at WashU, last year we created for the first time our WashU Rural Scholars Academy, which is a residential pre-college program for rising juniors. So those on this call that are sophomores, this program is for you. First year students in high school, this program is for you. Next year, if you're a junior, I have another program that I'll chat briefly about that WashU has for you as well. And seniors, as Margie said, every school on this webinar and every school as part of the STARS Network has something. Open houses, fly-in visit days just for current seniors, etc. So if you are a sophomore, though, our program is a week-long program that happens in July every year. This year is July 14th through July 20th, 2024. As I said, it's a week-long pre-college program where you will live on our campus in our WashU housing. You'll have a meal plan. You will have your own room key. You will have your own room. You will be able to do laundry. You will kind of live like a college student lives in the residence halls and experience that on-campus living during your time in the program. We also have an 8-hour course called Design Thinking. It's a really cool course. It focuses on the importance of play in the adult world, where our students actually get to choose a spot on campus in groups and pairs and create a model of how they would make that space more fun. My favorite was this group that there's a spiral staircase in our library, or this group wanted to have a spider web hammock thing be in there where students could like nap and sleep and relax during the school day. Another one wanted to build a carousel with the seats were like brains, because outside of the library, because the library is where you're supposed to study and use your brain, and so the carousel would like move during the day. So a really fun way to show that design and thinking and creativity can happen in any field, whether you want to study art or business or engineering. We all can use creativity, and we all can find ways to be more creative in the work that we do. You also participate in 4 different workshops with my team, the rural recruitment team at WashU, learning about how to apply to a highly selective institution, learning about holistic admissions, learning about how to start your college search, how to ask for recommendation letters, how to write a college essay. A lot of things that we know a lot of rural schools aren't getting a lot of information from their high schools, unfortunately, or from their community. And so I want to help give that advice to you and give you that knowledge base. And also explore St. Louis with your peers. We go to the St. Louis Arch, go to a St. Louis Cardinals game. We go to the St. Louis Zoo. It's always a big hit. The #1 zoo in America, so everyone loves going there for part of this program. We should go to the Muni, which is the country's largest outdoor amphitheater, and watch a play as well. So a lot of fun things on top of the social academic pieces as well. And we also have a really cool thing called a Rural Peer Ambassadors, where we hire 6 current WashU students from rural and small town communities across the country. So these are current WashU students who were in your shoes 2, 3, or even 1 year ago, who now come back and kind of serve as your camp counselor during the week, provide advice, answer any questions you have, share their personal story about how they got to WashU and navigated college in general, and also kind of be there to take you on your social excursions, answer questions you have, make you feel supported and welcome, help kind of normalize this process that we know you all are going through as these rural students. Applications close March 1st. They're currently open. Our application only asks for a transcript and a 1 short answer essay. That's it. So as long as you give us a transcript that you're from your counselor or your counseling team at your high school and respond to 1 short answer essay, we will be able to take your application from there. We are a financially fully covered program. So there is no having to apply for a scholarship. There's no out-of-pocket costs. If you are flying in, we will automatically pay for your flight ahead of time. If you are driving into St. Louis from a rural community in the Midwest, we will reimburse your mileage and your gas. Everything is covered for our program: housing, room, board, meals, excursions, the workbook you get from us, the swag you get from us is all covered as well. And so we're a really fun program. We're in our 2nd year. This picture right here is our very first cohort. 25 of them joined us last summer. They had an amazing time. They were all best friends by the time they left. And they still communicate to this day. They still send my team and I messages, and we got Christmas cards from a few of them and their families, which is really fun, their holiday cards. So really fun time to kind of come to St. Louis and join our community for a week, and experience what WashU and St. Louis have to offer. So I'll pass it off now to Margie to talk more about the Emerging Rural Leaders Program.
Perfect. right, thank you, Dakota. Wait, I have to ask real quick before we move on. Who's the mascot? Who is that on the ground?
William Roberts, he is a newer person in our office. That was the other duties as assigned part of his job that day.
Love that. That's
He
amazing.
came in not knowing he was doing that until I asked him for 4 minutes. John Palmer was there for that actually. He knows all about that.
Great. This is so much fun. This
The
is
students, though, actually, they kept saying hi to William the rest of the week. They're like, "Hi, William. Hi, William." And I saw him just that one time, but they were like William's best friend the rest of the week. They loved him. It was so much fun.
That is fantastic. Well, we don't have any fun mascots in any of our pictures, but we do have the Bean. So I am here to talk about the Emerging World Leaders program at the University of Chicago. We are in our 5th year of Emerging World Leaders, and we do offer 2 different programs. So one is Emerging World Leaders 1, that is for anyone who is currently a high school freshman. So it happens that summer between freshman year and sophomore year. And then the second program is for Emerging World Leaders 2, and that is for students who are currently in their junior year of high school. It happens between the summer of your junior year and your senior year. So 2 options here. For my current sophomore friends, we do offer a ton of other enrichment programs, and an enrichment program at the University of Chicago is usually 1 week long, and it is fully funded, so entirely free, similar to WashU's program, right? Like we cover your travel costs. If you drive, we'll cover your mileage, we'll cover your airfare. We pick you up from the airport, we bring you to campus. You don't have to learn how to navigate the public transportation system right off the bat. So we really do cover all of your costs while you are with us. And that is for these 2 programs, but also for any of our enrichment programs listed on our website. So you have lots of options there. You'll see the dates on here. So Emerging World Leaders 1 is near the end of the summer, so July 20th to August 2nd. Emerging World Leaders 2 happens a little earlier, July 21st to July 26th. You get a full week on campus. The way that our program is structured might be a little bit different. So this is one of the reasons we wanted to talk to you all about these different programs, how they are structured, how you apply, things like that. So for Emerging World Leaders, we usually spend most of our mornings in classrooms. And a lot of our classes are really designed to show you the breadth of what a liberal arts college can offer. So you will take classes in the humanities, in STEM, in social sciences, in the arts, depending on the day. And you have usually about 5 to 6 classes to choose from. You pick 2 of them. You go to both of those in the morning. Those are taught by our University of Chicago faculty. They're small classes, usually about 20 to 30 students. Discussion based, so you might have to do a little bit of homework or a little bit of reading, but it's really meant to show you what that classroom experience is going to be like in college. In a really wide variety of areas. So I have a few examples of some of those classes. My absolute favorite to say was the Spiderweb Capitalism. That's just a fun way to talk about it, but also really loved Biohackers, Genetic Engineers, and Cyborgs, the Transforming the Human. Tons of options, like I said, in pretty much every academic area, which is really nice. Then afternoons, we spend a lot of time exploring the city of Chicago together as a group. As you can see, last year we went to the Bean. We usually go on an architecture boat tour in downtown Chicago. We had a night where we did make your own deep dish pizza. We've had evenings where we get a class. You actually participate in a class with Second City Improv, which is a really cool improv troupe in Chicago. So really kind of having the fun social aspect as well as a taste of what academics are going to be like in Chicago. So having that balance. We also spent some time in the afternoons and evenings talking about the college application process, doing those sorts of sessions and webinars about financial aid, how to apply, how to write your essay, and really getting kind of deep into what is the actual application process going to look like. And we do that for the freshmen as well as the juniors, because it can be really helpful to have that information as a freshman as you go through your high school career, understanding like, oh, this is going to be coming up, or this is what I want to look for, this is what I'm interested in. So that's a little bit about what the actual week looks like on our campus. And the application process, again, for a lot of these programs, it's going to mimic what your actual college application is going to look like. So we're going to ask you for things like, what are you involved in? What are your extracurriculars? Pretty much everyone's going to ask you for some sort of transcript. We want to see how you're doing in the classes you're taking already. We do, for these two programs for emerging rural leaders, we ask for a recommender or a nominator. So we're asking for a teacher to kind of talk about how you're doing inside the classroom, or a counselor. So it can be any educator at your high school. So it could be a teacher, it could be a counselor, it could be a principal, it could be the superintendent, any sort of educator at your high school who can write a recommendation or nominate you for a program. That is great. And then we do ask for 2 short essays. And again, that is a lot of what a college application is going to look like. It's filling out your extracurriculars and essays, submitting your transcripts. So it's a really nice kind of intro to what your actual college application process is going to look like. You will apply through our website, summer.uchicago.edu, and I also listed the links for all of our STARS events. They're listed there on the on-campus events. For YYGS, for WashU, and for UChicago programs, they're on there. You can get more details. You can see all of the required materials. You can see the deadlines, and you will submit your applications through those links. So through those websites, that is how you actually apply. And I did mention on the summer.uchicago.edu website, you're going to see these 2 programs, but you will see a really wide variety of enrichment programs. So if you are a sophomore, or you have a really specific academic interest, maybe you only want to study quantum physics, or you only want to study economics or something over your summer, we have programs designed for that too. So you can take a look at everything that is offered there. And John Palmer is going to wrap us up with a little bit more about Vanderbilt's programs. But one thing I wanted to mention is that we've highlighted these programs, as well as the one at Vanderbilt, as something to keep in mind. These are free, right? They are fully funded through the funding that we receive from really generous donors. But at the same time, there are a lot of other summer programs out there that do offer things like need-based financial aid or scholarships. They're just not highlighted right now. So you have lots of options out there for you. Make sure you do your homework and do your research. And I'm going to turn it over to John Palmer now.
Absolutely. And I mean, piggybacking off of what Margie said, I encourage you to look at a lot of schools, even outside of the STARS network. Look at your local public institutions, public flagship institutions. Many of those will offer some great summer programs with financial assistance. When I was in high school, way back in the day, one of my favorite things I ever did was a summer program at the local university 45 minutes away from where I grew up. So just things for you to think about for sure. But I will talk a little bit about the Vanderbilt Summer Academy. This is a great program that you may see some parallels or some differences in all of our programs. You'll see some parallels in ours with Yale's Young Global Scholars program. Just to highlight kind of some things that you may have noticed that are different or similar from our different programs. Both Yale and Vanderbilt's programs are kind of hosted by the university overall is a good way of thinking about it. Whereas UChicago and WashU's programs are housed by those admissions offices. So that's how Yale's able to offer some of those select scholarships for rural identifying students. And as of about 4 hours ago, we are going to be able to do the same at Vanderbilt for the Vanderbilt Summer Academy. So I'm really excited about that. So if you are a rural student who's interested in coming to Nashville, we're ironing out the details on that, but we will have some scholarships available. As you can see here on the screen, we do offer a variety of different program options for rising 9th graders through rising 12th graders. You'll notice those 1-week programs are the most common, though we do offer a 2-week program option for rising 11th graders and 12th graders during July. Kind of what you can expect with the program, you'll find some similarities to what we've been talking about. You will live on campus, specifically live over in the Commons, which is where all first-year students live. So you get really a great taste of the first-year experience. You're spread out amongst 3 different residence halls, so you don't just get to experience one, you get to see kind of some of the differences and really makes for kind of a fun community for our students. Certainly, there's a lot of time inside the classroom. A typical schedule, you can expect 3 hours in the morning and 3 hours in the afternoon of academic coursework. So really great for students who are looking to have very much an immersive academic experience during that 1 week or that 2 week program. During your off time, there's a lot of fun stuff that we do in Nashville. For those of y'all unfamiliar with our location in Nashville, we're in a great part of town that's really walkable to a lot of areas. So what's nice is we don't necessarily have to do kind of full-on excursions to different places in Nashville, but rather we sometimes have structured free time where maybe you just want to grab a friend and kind of walk off campus to a coffee shop or restaurant. There's time for you to be able to do that, which really does give you a little bit more of a taste of that kind of college experience. We always have students as a part of the Vanderbilt Summer Academy, truly from all over the country, as you've heard with all of our other different institutions that are represented tonight. There are a couple different kind of processes to apply into Vanderbilt Summer Academy. Like Margie was talking about, kind of similar-ish to what you're going to find with the college application process. We're no different at Vanderbilt within the Vanderbilt Summer Academy. Kind of our priority deadline is actually wrapping up in a couple of days, January 11th, but don't worry, we still have a number of students who are accepted through our rolling kind of regular decision process. That opens January 12th, stays open through the beginning of March. So I'll put some links in the chat for us so that y'all can look at some of our program options online. We have all of the course offerings listed online and a lot of other details of what you can expect to put within your application. Kind of similar to what Margie was mentioning, kind of a baby college application, transcript, resume, recommendation letters are going to be very similar to what you see within our process as well. Now that we've talked about these different kind of program options that we offer, we've kind of been focusing well, I guess just specifically on the summer today, right? Not even necessarily on spring, but just on summer. But want y'all to know that outside of these summer program options, you're also going to find other fly-in and drive-in options as well. A fly-in in particular will kind of resemble kind of a small version of one of these summer experiences. They're typically going to be multi-day programs. They're typically going to be residential as well. So either staying in residence halls on campus or maybe in a hotel that's really close to campus. Typically, those universities will cover the cost of your travel, will cover meals, they'll cover housing, and any other expenses that may be attached to those programs as well. And this is another really great way to just explore a new school, a new city, maybe a new part of the country that you're unfamiliar with, and meet some new people as well. I know Margie always tells some fun stories about like students who have never been to a city as big as Chicago experiencing what that's like to, right, maybe navigate the L or, all of those things that they do up there in Chicago. So a cool thing for you to consider with those fly-in and drive-in options. While we don't have fly-in and drive-ins listed on the website, we want you to just be thinking of these opportunities and be sure to check the website for more options that may come up in the coming months. We are expecting to have a handful of fly-in options available at some of the different STARS Network schools. There are also some schools that may have drive-in options. Drive-ins are usually focused on students that are, as you can kind of figure out by the name, a little bit closer to those college campuses. At Vanderbilt, we hosted a one-day drive-in program specifically for students from Tennessee and surrounding states back in November. So be on the lookout for those programs as well. I think what you'll find with those programs, it's just a great way to experience those schools. And maybe you love the idea of a summer program, but the idea of being gone for maybe a full week or a full 2 weeks seems like a little bit too much. Maybe you just want to take a bite size. Maybe you'd really benefit from just a 2-day or a 3-day program or even 1 day. That's where a fly-in or a drive-in may be a really good fit for you as well. So just keep an eye on the website for those different options coming up.
Perfect. Thank you, John Palmer. We'll also be sending emails with programs, especially with deadlines coming up for a lot of these summer programs and any new fly-in programs that pop up. We will make sure to send that your way. So please check your email. It is our best way to communicate with you. It's our only way to communicate with you for the most part. So we do try to send any important information, especially when deadlines are involved, through there. I want to wrap us up and talk about another opportunity that I think is really important, which are visit days and open houses. So visit days and open houses, they don't always have these kind of like, they're not huge multi-day programs usually. It's just, you get to go visit a college campus. You get to walk around. Every single college and university out there offers some way to visit that college and walk around their campus, right? So usually those are going to be those guided tours with current students, kind of walking backwards, telling you a little bit about the school. It may also include, I know at the University of Chicago, kind of an information session. So sitting down with an admissions counselor, someone who works in admissions, to talk about the application process for that school or what they offer in terms of programs that you might be interested in. Some schools offer the opportunity where you can stay overnight in a student dormitory, right? Some schools offer the opportunity for you to meet with a faculty member when you come visit. So my advice to you is to really do as much of your homework as possible and research to take advantage. If you are going to go visit a campus, use that time as best you can, meet with as many people, and just make sure that you make the most of your time there. If you can eat in the dining hall, and some schools will allow you to just eat in the dining hall while you're there, go for it. If you want to go sleep on someone's floor overnight, which is what usually an overnight is going to be like during the school year, go for it. But it's a really good way to visit a lot of different schools and get a good feel for how they might be similar or they might be different. I think I encourage students to do this whenever you have the opportunity, but we also recognize that for a lot of students who are in more remote areas like rural or small town high schools, it can be difficult to get to a lot of different kinds of college campuses. So that is one really big reason we offer these fly-in and drive-in programs. We offer these summer programs to make it accessible so that you can go visit different kinds of college campuses that might be kind of far from home, or not even far, just hard to get to. So I think that is often really important. I would also say when you're doing your homework and your research, it never hurts to ask, like, if maybe there's a travel stipend involved that you can come visit a campus, because maybe without that travel stipend, you wouldn't be able to go visit that campus. So I would say, again, kind of ask questions, see what you can do, take advantage of all of the time that you have on that campus, and visit as many schools as you can. So sorry, that's my last piece of advice. I would encourage you to even visit schools you're not interested in, but if you're on summer vacation and you happen to be in the area, or you just happen to be visiting an area for the first time, go visit whatever college is there, because it can help you figure out what you want and what you don't want out of college, which is one of the best parts of these sorts of programs that we are hosting. It is really hard to figure out what you want out of something that you haven't experienced before. So these sorts of programs, the summer programs, the fly-ins, the drive-ins, they're really meant to give you an opportunity to test drive what college is like, what's important to you, what is your priority. I know for some of the students, this might not land. For some of the parents or counselors out there, looking for a college is a little like looking for a house, because you are going to live there for the next 4 years. And it's hard. I would not encourage anyone to buy a house unseen. So maybe figuring out what you need or want is a really important part of the process. And visiting different campuses is a good way to get that started. So my final tips: have fun, explore all of your options that are available to you. Like I said, keep an open mind. But also keep in mind different requirements, eligibility especially. You saw several different programs, and they all had different age ranges. They all had different deadlines. Some of them are more focused on different regions or academic interests. So really keeping in mind, what is the eligibility? What am I looking at? And do I qualify for these programs? There was a really good question. So someone asked, I think it's Evelyn in the Q&A, whether she qualifies as a small town student because she lives in a small town, but she attends a school that is further away. But yes, For most of our programs, it's going to be based off of any combination of where you live and or where you attend school. So I highly encourage anyone who has these questions about, do I qualify as rural or small town? We have the FAQ on our website that links to the National Center for Education Statistics. That is a great way to start looking into that. If your home address or your high school kind of falls within any of the town or rural areas, it's usually a good bet. And if it doesn't, that is okay. We still have a lot of these virtual programs that are great resources for students, but you might not be eligible for something like a fly-in or a drive-in program that is specifically designed for rural or small town students. Again, if you have questions, please reach out to any of us. We run these programs, so we are more than happy to talk about specific eligibility requirements. But for the most part, start with that FAQ, look at the National Center for Education Statistics, and start there. Then any required materials, again, you'll see different options there. So some people are going to require nominations. Pretty much everyone's going to require that transcript. Some people require essays. So keeping in mind what are the different required materials. YYGS requires that need-based financial aid application. So different programs, different required materials, and then length and time of year, right? I would love to say that we should have programs right now in Chicago and you should all come visit in the middle of January, but I don't think you want to do that. And I don't want that to be your first experience in Chicago. So summer is great. Summer is a great time. Spring's a great time. Fall's a great time. I think you're going to see most of the programs during that time period. You will see several in California in the winter, and that's great. Go experience California in January. It's a very different experience. How long do you want to spend on these programs? A week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks? It's for many students, it's their first time on their own. It's their first flight on your own. It's your first kind of moment of that summer camp independence. So how long do you feel comfortable with that? And then keeping in mind that these are a few examples of great programs. There are a lot of organizations out there that also offer some pretty cool summer programs. RISE is a really good example. Gear Up, Upward Bound, QuestBridge. If you're in New Mexico, there's a great program through Davis New Mexico Scholars. So summer programs do exist in a lot of different areas. And I encourage you to, again, do your homework, do your research. There's a lot out there. Hopefully we were able to help a little bit with just these programs. But imagine we would be on here for hours if we were going to cover every summer program or fly-in program out there. So definitely look it up. Okay, we are into the Q&A section. So if anyone has any questions, please feel free to throw them in the Q&A where we have a few extra minutes, so we can definitely get to them. So Ava or Evelyn, I think you're good. Oh yeah, so here's another question. Does living in a rural area count if you go to what's considered a large city public school 20 minutes away? That is a great question. That is more of a grayer area, just because you're what we would call a fringe student at that point. You're kind of on the edge of a city and a rural area. Depending on the school, most of us would still consider that if you attend that, if you live in that rural area and you have a home address that's going to qualify as rural or small town, we would still take that into consideration. That's a good question. Oh, these are good questions. So Grayson asks, what is the acceptance rate for the YYGS, WashU Rural Scholars Academy and Emerging Rural Leaders at UChicago programs? I'll start with Emerging Rural Leaders. Last year, it was right around 20% was our acceptance rate for the program. Now, keeping in mind that for the older students, so for Emerging Rural Leaders 2, that is usually a cohort of about 40 students. For Emerging Rural Leaders 1, it is a cohort of about 50 students, 50 to 60, depending on the year. So it is a much larger cohort for younger students than it is for the older student program. But I'm going to open it up to the panel and see if anyone else wants to share what that process looks like for them.
Yeah, so we are still kind of, our program is still new. The program at UChicago has been around for a lot longer, so we only have 1 year data to go off of, but Sorry. We had about 90,000, not 90,000. We had 90 applications for that. I would not be here if that was the case. We had 90 applications for 25 spots last year. For our first year, which is very exciting, but we are doubling the number of students we're bringing this year. And so that acceptance rate doesn't really doesn't really give a good picture of what it'll be this year because we are doubling that amount of students we are taking because we got way more applications than we thought we would our first year.
For YYGS, I would say I don't have an exact percentage for an admit rate, but it is highly selective. So unlike Yale College admissions, I don't know exactly what percentage we're letting in, but it is very competitive in terms of the candidates we receive in the selection process, especially for the STARS scholarship.
Perfect. Yeah, YYGS is a big one. They're not 90,000, but there are thousands of students who do apply for YYGS. So something
And from all over the world, not just the United States. So
perfect. I did have a question from Estrella about attending. So Estrella attended the Chicago program in May. Thank you, Estrella. And is interested in attending future programs at different schools. Does participating in one make you ineligible to participate in the other ones? The answer is no. So we are all different college campuses. And like I said, we want you to visit as many as possible to get a really good feel for what is out there. There are students who have done multiple programs. There are students who have done a fly-in program at one place and a summer program at another place. And you do get different experiences through that. So nope, we're not gonna ding you just because you did one program. That's awesome. Go explore everything else that is available out there. So Gabriella asks, what is the best way to stand out in the college admissions process? And can we put our applications that we were STARS members? I'm gonna punt that one over to John Palmer because I think it's a great question and would love to hear his thoughts.
Thanks, Margie. Yeah, I think that there's, a lot that you need to think about as you're going through the college application process, right? We talk about that a lot to students. And I'm thinking a little bit about a question that was asked earlier today about I think it was going over to Samantha directly at Yale about how your rality could be a good thing or a bad thing within the application process. We talk a lot about bringing your full self into the application process and wanting to understand the context of each student's lived experience. I think what's really nice about some of these programs is maybe if you attend some type of summer program or a fly-in program or a drive-in program, that can maybe help you understand your lived experience, where you're coming from, and then that will better prepare you for your college application when it's time to apply to those institutions. We understand that you're 16, 17-year-olds, that you aren't necessarily always sitting around thinking about your life and what you can bring to a college. And sometimes these programs and things that you're doing with us, we are thinking about that a lot, and we can help pull that out of you and help you think about, oh, what is the unique perspective that you would be bringing to our college campuses. So I think that maybe deviates a little bit from what the initial question was, but just thinking of ways that you can kind of strengthen your college application, specifically as we're talking about your identity as a rural or small town student in conjunction with these fly-in, drive-in, summer programs, whatever it may be. That's a big thing for you to think of. I think it also helps you just visualize yourself on a college campus and help you understand the type of institution that you'd be really successful in as well. So forget who asked that question, but good question.
It's a great question. And you mentioned something at the end that really spoke to me because I don't think I could tell you up into probably my third year of college what a liberal arts college actually was or what that meant. And I was doing it at the time. So I think it is a really great way to get a feel for what different kinds of colleges are like. And there's another really good question from Isa, who asks, basically, my school doesn't have a ton of AP or advanced classes. Does that decrease my chances of getting these programs? Absolutely not. Part of the point of these programs is so that you have the opportunity to be in that college classroom, to meet with college faculty. So you understand you can do it. You don't need to have fancy AP classes at your high school. Not every high school offers that. Those can be expensive. So honestly, like if you have the drive and you have the potential and you want to work hard, you're gonna be just fine at any of our college campuses. We read applications within the context of your high school. So what was available to you and what did you take advantage of? This also means you're not going to be penalized in this process. Like if your high school doesn't have honors classes or AP classes or the IB curriculum, everything's taken into context. If you are challenging yourself and you're doing the most with what is available to you, that is awesome. Once you are on our campuses, you're going to have so many wonderful opportunities, and it's not going to penalize you in this process at all. I think that's one of the best parts of the summer programs that have that kind of like academic component. The class at WashU and Vanderbilt and Yale and U Chicago is that you also get a taste for what a college classroom is like, and it can be very, very different from a high school classroom. It can be really exciting and discussion based, and you might be thinking out of the box, and we want you to have an opinion and don't be afraid to share it. And it's a really great way to kind of see that that's something you can do. Even if you didn't have AP classes or IB curriculum, you can absolutely jump into that discussion class without that. So I think that's my long way of saying that. Cool. So we have just a few more questions. Let's see. So a question from Jessica. Are these the only summer programs offered by the STARS network? Are there other programs offered by other universities associated with STARS, such as MIT, Brown, Columbia, etc.? Pretty much every single one of those universities, every university in STARS is going to have some sort of summer academy, summer school, summer program. But they're not always going to be specifically designed for rural and small town students, where they might not have a specific scholarship set aside for rural or small town students. So yes, if you are interested in exploring those institutions, go for it. Almost all of them are going to offer things like need-based financial aid. That can cover the full cost of that program sometimes at that school. MIT has a really wonderful program called MITES. That is, I think, fully funded. It covers like the cost of pretty much everything. Yeah, so again, kind of looking into which school you want to see in the future. Hopefully next summer, you're going to see a bunch more of these. So this past year, Columbia did have a fly-in program specifically for rural and small town students. Brown had a fly-in program. MIT is working on one. Our friends at USC and Caltech are working on one. So you're going to see a lot of those types of programs pop up over the next year. These are the ones that are all ready to go and the applications are live. So keep in mind checking the website. How do you get accepted into a fly-in program? Great question. We didn't talk about applications necessarily for fly-in programs, but they are going to look very similar to the applications that you saw for the summer programs. Sometimes fly-in programs are going to be invite only. So you might receive a special invite from an institution to apply for that fly-in program, or if they're open to everyone, you're going to see it right on our website. So you're going to see the link on there. You can apply directly through there. The past few years, one of the cool things that we've done is we've done like combined. So we've created one application where you can apply for multiple fly-in programs at the same time. That way you don't have to fill out the same application like 16 times to be considered for all the fly-in programs available through the STARS member schools. So that usually goes live in the fall. This past year, I think the deadline was September, October. So usually in the fall, that big fly-in application will go live and you can pick. You can say, I want to be considered for the fly-in at Brown or U Chicago or MIT or Columbia or Yale, whatever, and it'll all be on that same place. I want to go ahead and wrap us up with just a few last things. If you're wondering how you access the website, here it is. You can register for any of our other virtual programs. We do have one coming up in just 2 weeks on financial aid. For a lot of you seniors, this could be really helpful because we're going to talk about the changes to the FAFSA. We're going to talk about financial aid processes, how to read a financial aid letter, how to decide if something is going to be doable for your family or not. We'll talk about calculators. We'll talk about all sorts of stuff. So check that out. And we do have, like I said, sessions every single month. Sometimes we have them more than once a month. You will see links to Khan Academy and Schoolhouse. You'll see links to that financial aid calculator that I talked about, and you'll learn more about all of our 16 schools. So in order to wrap us up in time within our hour, I'm going to go ahead and close us out. I know we have a few more questions. I'm going to answer a few more of these questions on here before we close out the room. But I want to thank you guys for spending your Tuesday night with us. You're starting the year off right. If this was one of your New Year's resolutions, was to learn more about college, you are well on your way. Please reach out to any of us if you have questions about these programs. Pretty much all of us have our names and information linked on our websites. So we shared a bunch of those links in the chat. I will leave that open for a little while as well. But I want to thank our panelists too for joining us tonight. Thank you guys. And have a great evening. Bye, guys.